Welcome back to the channel. It's a beautiful day in southwest Arizona. Hardly a cloud in the sky. A little chilly. I think it was 37 this morning. It's probably about 45 to 48 now. But today's adventure is we're going to install this solar panel array in addition onto my bus. There's my dog Zen enjoying some sun. We already have 400 watts of solar on the roof, but this is a 200 watt panel, foldable. You won't be able to read it very well, but it is from Renogy. It comes with a stand. It's got some wiring. It's also got a built-in 20 amp solar controller. It's reading 601 now because nothing's plugged in, but when I plug in, it will work. It's got a Velcro. It's a 6 behind. It is waterproof, so it is good to be outside. This unit comes with some legs, which are good, but the wiring here was purchased on the Amazon, and it needs to go not in the window, but I'm thinking somewhere right in this area. I would like to use either this hole, this hole, this hole, this hole, which it's where the stop arm used to be at, but I think it's going to be not advantageous inside when I get in there. But I think somewhere in this area should clear what I need to. And I know this marker light wires come from above this way, so we should be good on that. I guess the only way to find out is to drill yet another hole inside the bus and see what I can find. So we'll go inside and look and show you what's in there. And here we are inside. This is my dedicated power closet in front of the bus. We'll get down here. I should kind of zoom back. I've got two 200 amp lithium batteries from LifePro. There's my DC-DC charger, 60 amps. I can charge my batteries off my alternator while I'm driving. Under here is my solar disconnect in the white box. The other one is my solar charge controller for the panels on the roof of the bus. 12 volt plug-in, 3000 watt renogy inverter. Yes, I went with the Victron link distributor. Over there is my battery disconnect, assorted fuses and wiring. Down here is my future shore power smart switch. So whenever I hook it up, I'll be able to plug into shore power, and it should switch over from solar to shore power. As my 120 volt, basically household fuse box. My understanding is, when I did my research online, which I am no expert at any of the wiring, so do not take this as the gospel. This is just what I did after watching hundreds of hours of videos and research and talking and asking. This is what I came up with on mine. It's working. It's been there for about 6 months. Haven't had any issues with it. And oh yeah, I've got a few mouse traps back there. So when you get out in the woods, you'll find out mice like to come inside your vehicle. So when I find that, I set some traps. But my understanding is on this, if you don't need a main breaker, if your hand, from what I read online, if your hand could reach across your switches, if your hand can't reach all of your breakers, then you have to have a main breaker. If your hand can cover the breakers, you can click them off with one switch and you don't need a main breaker. Maybe I'm wrong. I think that's what I read. So anyway, my plan is, back on this, is to drill a hole from, I think, outside. It's going to be somewhere in this area. Should be lined up with outside. Everything over here is kind of where the other holes are. Really tight, congested. And also the wiring that I got plugged in is not long enough to reach the Lynx distributor where I need to plug it in, hook it into. So we'll show you what we're using right up here. This is the wiring that I bought off Amazon. It's just basically a little panel plug in, and it comes with about, I don't know, if maybe 1.5 2 foot wires. I put the ends on. These just came with bare wires. I went ahead and put some rings on it and heat shrunk them down. And so one thing I noticed when I got my wiring in was the wiring that came with the that goes to the outside. If I plugged it into this, the way it goes, if you look real closely, it goes this way, which means that your positive and negative are backwards. So I didn't notice that, but I found inside the bag an adapter. So now that will switch the positive negative back to the right coordinations. So this wiring, when you plug it in, instead of being backwards, will now be red to red and black to black. You could hook it up the other way. Just all you'll have to switch the positive and negative leads on your Lynx distributor. So you have the red will be negative and your black would be positive, but this also works. So we'll try that. Here's some tools I'm going to be using. I've got a drill, of course, drill a hole. Got my coffee. Now, depending on time of day, you could have anything you want, but I have the coffee for the morning. For drill bits, there's my hole saw, screwdriver, drill bit, screws, wrench. I take the nuts off there, and I use a Dynaflex for sealant. This is a pretty good quality. It's what I use on all my windows. It's not a silicone base, it's a polyurethane base, and it really sticks, and it's really messy, but it does work. And so we use that for sealing. So stand by and we'll get the tools ready and we'll drill a hole, see where it comes out. And the reason why I chose this area right through here is when I show you is the wiring. It's been a short lead. I'll pull this off. If I hook it up into this area right here, I don't have too much area to go with it. So I've got to go through a few inches of wall space. And so we're just going to come in right here and then bend it right in. That should fit just fine. Hopefully I don't hit anything as I go through. Should be down far enough from any supports. I know I'm below the metal ribs on the bus. So this should be just put me right through there. So we'll get started and see what comes up. There's a test hole. I didn't want to drill too big a hole. Now the problem is this drill bit's not long enough to go through the outside of the bus. So I'm going to have to find a little bit longer one or figure some way to get that through, because there's 1.5 inches of insulation plus 3/4 plywood plus 1.5 inches gap between the outside walls. So I need about another 6-inch bit. So we'll check back with, and we got a longer bit and see if this is, remember, we're just doing a pilot hole, so we're not doing a major hole. So it goes through there and we should be outside the bus. See what happened. Maybe we got outside. Feels like we did. Let's go check. There it is. A little higher than I wanted to come in, but it works right there. We'll drill a pilot hole start with, and then we'll get the hole saw out and we'll enlarge it big enough to get the plug in. It's only like a 1/2 inch hole saw, so it's not going to be a huge hole, but it's still a hole. So we'll get busy. Okay, what I got is a 7/8 inch hole saw. So we're going to drill that hole and see what we get into. on the other side. It would also help if your hole saw is sharp. So let's get this drilled out. We'll get back. There we have part of the hole drilled. You can see daylight on the other side. That's the pilot hole from the other side. So we get most of it through. Let's go outside and go the other way. Now we're going back this way. There it goes. And there we go. Got a hole all the way through. So let's run our connector in there and seal it up, and we'll kind of go from there. Be right back. And we're back. Got the hole drilled through. Got my 4 screw holes put in there. Didn't want to bore you with that. I do know one thing: if you want to drill a hole, get a good drill bit. I went through about 4 or 5 really dull ones, wouldn't drill nothing, but there's that. And I think I might have an issue because I think I got one of the holes offset. But anyway, we're going to put this plug, slide it on through, and we're going to get really gooped up with this Sikaflex or Ultraflex. And don't ever put your finger in there and rub it around, because you will cut yourself to shreds. Like, this stuff is really super gooey. It's hard to get out. If you get overflow, you'll have to use like some sort of mineral spirits or something really heavy to get it cleaned off, because it will not come off very well. All right, here we go. And I put my, there we go. Don't put too much in there. And depending how you want it, I've got mine set where the flap will cover in the front, and that way if it does open up, it's going to be away from the wind or the rain if it's driving. And also you can orient those however you want, but also you want to make sure there's not too much of a strain upon your plug-in. So this is your plug-in. So there's what you have to stick into that. So you don't want to have a good strain and maybe pop one loose. But we'll see that happens. We'll put some screws in this thing, and then we're ready to go wire it up. All right, here we go. Of course, you drop the screws everywhere. One thing about it is you'll never find them again when you drop them. It's the same way as finding a hole. You never find it again once you, there it is. Go. Screw number 2. Well, there you go. Come down. Okay. Now see if the other ones line up. We'll hope so. There's 3, and one more. How about that? Got it all in. So when it's closed, it'll be like that. And when you have it plugged in, it'll be open like that. I'll go ahead and plug it in after I get my adapter from inside and plug it in, because if I plug it in now, remember, it plugs in like that, but on the inside it's this way. So if I didn't wire it up right, I would be wiring it backwards. So we're going to get my adapter and we'll get it hooked up in a minute. We'll go inside and get it wired. And we have returned. Wire is in, black and red wires. They're very gooey, so we'll clean them off a bit. And what I use to clean off this Dynaflex is basically just Goo Gone. It does seem to work pretty well. So clean these up. Went ahead and sealed around the hole. So get that in there. All right. Now we'll hook these wires up. What we're going to do is disconnect everything we got. These wires here are for my current solar charge controller up to the solar panels on the roof. And so what I need to do is disconnect those, because I don't want to have them live, because there is power coming through those while that is on. So by using this disconnect switch here, I can turn off the power, and I can verify it on there that it says 0 and 0. It's 13 volts, but it is, when it gets through this channel, it's the temperature, and we should have 0 volts coming in. So there we are. So, and now I'm going to tap onto these two wires. I also got my batteries turned off here. Yeah, we're going to get beeping. That keeps the back feed from the battery into it. So we're going to disconnect the positive and the negative on this lead and attach those to it. This is a 100 amp fuse, and I checked this 30 amp I'm using on the roof calls for, I believe, a 40 amp fuse, and the 20 amp outside calls for a 30 amp fuse. So that's 70 amp fuse total, and I've got 100, so we're going to cover both of those, so we're above what we need. So we'll take these nuts loose. Pop these off. Oops. And then we'll take off the clip. I do like these Victron bus bars or link distributors because they're just pretty easy to use. And they there you go. It never fails. You always wind up dropping something. We'll pop these two off. If I can get it loose, come on out of there. Oops. Okay, we got that loose. And we're just going to run, remember the black is negative and the red is positive. So since I didn't wire them directly outside correctly, so we're just going to tap onto the negative on the back. And this is what I use. I watch a lot of Nate from explorerslife.com and Explorers Life on YouTube. He's got hundreds of videos and very thorough, very knowledgeable on his work of electrical and solar and van builds. And that's why I watch most of mine, because he does everything from these components to just wiring up the switch. You learn a lot about him. And also, Mike from Navigation Nowhere did a few best builds, and he also is really good with solar and electrical power. All right, we got this. This is basically just a separator. You don't have to have them, but I just kind of like having it in there. And then we're going to tap the positive. And I made the negative a little shorter on the back because it's a little shorter lead, so I don't have as much wire pulled up. But if you watch Nate on Explorer.live, he does washer, lock washer, nut, and torque to the correct specs. You'll hear that a million times, but you'll get through your head that that's how you put them in. All right, that's it. We are got them hooked up, not too hard. We'll hook that wire there. We got flex around that hole. I'm gonna kick our batteries back on. I do have underpower lights in here, which are really great. I like those. And then we're gonna flip on our charge controller and see, like, we are gaining. There's some amperage coming through. And this is the only thing it's reading now off that one is just the solar panels on the roof, the 400 watts. So we'll go outside and plug them in. This is plugged in here everywhere, but it's not plugged into the solar panel outside. So we'll give you an idea what it's doing. Let's see. According to this, we're running at 137, 38, 40 watts off of the 400 watts on the roof. One thing I found out being in the desert is the sun is not in the right direction. So, for instance, if you're here, this sun's way over here somewhere. And it's coming at an angle. So it's bouncing across your solar panels, not getting a good power on them. So that's just due to the time of year. It is January. The sun is at its lowest. Well, it's coming back up. It was at its lowest. So we'll see. Like, we're going to hold it right there. I'm going to put you down here. And I'm going to go outside and plug in the solar panels to 200 watts and see if that jumps up. It should. Be right back. There we go. Seem to be charging that here. We are plugged in. And what do we go to? All right. So we've gained 140, 150 watts extra. So, which is good. I knew the system worked before I hooked it up because I tried it before, because you don't want to drill a hole to the side of your vehicle if the system doesn't work. So I did a temporary through the window, plugged it in, and make sure I was getting power, and it is. And if you want to know any more questions about where I got this, what it is, I'll tell you again, it's right down there. Got it off Amazon. It's a Renogy 200 watt with a 20 amp solar charge controller. Wiring was extra, but this was a slightly used refurbished model. I think it's refurbished, but it says slightly used. Came out of the box, looked brand new. Is $100 and something cheaper than a new one. I think it still has a warranty on it. So, heck, if I can save $100, I'm going to do it. So right there, we're pushing almost 300 watts, which is pretty good. We'll have these batteries charged up in no time. And there we are. We're hooked up down here again. I got heat shrink on it. Don't mind the black, but that's the only color heat shrink I had. But there we are. We'll wire this thing up, Sikaflex or the Dynaflex in there, and we'll call this one a wrap. We'll be charging some power. And if I had to, for really bad days, like I said, it's, sunny, rain, cloudy, I can go drive in this DC charger with 60 amp will charge up the batteries pretty quick. But it's also in this diesel bus, 8 miles a gallon at $4 a gallon. So you'd be spending $40, $50 to get your batteries charged. And so once again, go the cheap route, or cheaper in this long term. But there you are. Thanks for watching. Go out and everybody enjoy this beautiful day. Once again, out here in Arizona with my little puppy dog, my 100-pound ball of fluff and fur. We're going to enjoy this beautiful day out here in Arizona. No wind. Yesterday, last 2 days were about blow your head off. And cool. But today is a great day. We're going to go out and enjoy this. So everybody go out and enjoy it. Have fun. Catch you later.